Hi everyone, thank you for joining the stream today. So I'm going to continue this painting. Just going to continue the skateboarder here, and yeah, hopefully I've pretty much finished the actual skateboard. I might need a few highlights here, but what I'll plan to do is I'll create a tree that goes all the way around here, and if I have time I might do this, but I don't think I'll have time. Just a bit of word of warning, this is the first tree I've ever created, so it might be a bit of a disaster. Well, I think I've got a sort of technique down that I might work out how to do. So let me know, give you your feedback as we go through, and yeah, we'll go from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the background, start off with the dark. So if I put the reference image on, I'm not going to use the reference image, but there's a few dark bits behind the lamppost. I'm not going to do the lamppost, but there's a few dark bits. There's the trunk, there's the branches, and I'm going to work my way up from dark to light. So quite a really dark, probably the darkest bit of the painting actually, shadow, and then work my way up using the branches, using a bit of brown, dark brown, and then dark green, and lighter green, mix in a bit of yellow as well because I can see some yellow in there. So let me start mixing a bit of the paint. So for the dark bit, which is around here, I'm actually just going to do a pure Payne's grey. I'm not going to lighten it up because this really is a dark shadowy bit. So I'm going to get my Payne's grey as usual. I'll probably end up using a fair bit of Payne's grey, but not as much, but more green I guess. I'm going to use a fairly large brush for the start. This one will do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roughly sketch out what may or may not look good. I'm not really going against the reference image today. I'm just sort of going to sketch out and see what happens. So it's going to start off looking probably pretty horrendous with all the shadows and all the dark bits and all the random shading that I'm going to put in. And hopefully it'll get a little bit better. So I'm just going to put random shadows in and work around the shadows. And the camera light is quite bright because it's reflecting. But once it dries, it will stop looking that bright. So there's not really many dark bits apart from the bit that I'm just doing here. This is the main shadow at the bottom of the tree. And then I'll bring it up into sort of lighter sort of branches. So this is my plan today, just to complete the tree. So I'm just going to draw some rough branches using the dark colour. I'm sure it'll go over with brown later on. So as I say, I'm just roughly doing the shadows first. Depending how quick this tree is, this might be the last day I stream with this painting. There are a few touches I need to do around here. A bit more highlighting, I guess, around the actual subject. But other than that, I think we're pretty good with this painting. So I'm just going to work around these shadows that I'm creating. As I say, I've never done a tree before, so hopefully this will look fairly accurate. As with anything I do, I tend to work from the dark colours upwards. The tree is very, very much deciduous, so it's got a lot of leaves on it, so most of what I'm doing here is going to be covered up by the leaves. Not to forget the edges, which I always forget. So I think it's alright for the shadows, to be honest. I don't think that's bad at all. I think there's a couple over here. So the outline of the tree is going to be a bit further away from the painting than from the subject than in the picture. So it's going to probably start around here, go around there. So it's going to frame his hand nicely. The next step is, I guess, the brown. So for this colour I'm going to use burnt umber, and I'll get some raw umber on the palette as well. Burnt umber isn't very dark at all, however raw umber is quite dark. I'm going to get a relatively large but round brush. I'll use a size 2 brush. I will put some more Payne's grey on. I'm going to start off dark, so I'm going to mix a bit of the raw umber with the Payne's grey. Yeah, and as I say, I'm just going to sort of head out and just sort of create textures in what I've already painted, basically, with the colours. Now, almost all of this is going to be entirely covered with the green leaves and stuff. I'm just going to put this in first. I don't know if you can see what this looks like on the stream very well. Probably doesn't pick up very well. I don't think it does from what I can see. So I'm just putting a few of the branches in. Not going too heavy detail. So that's probably enough for the darker colour. And today's all about just building up the layers, I think, and then finishing off, starting from dark and then going to light. I'm just using the raw umber. The raw umber is actually quite bright for a brown, so hopefully this will give a few spots of bright colour where the sun is reflecting off the branches. So there's quite a lot of holes in the tree, which is where I'm painting these branches, but there'll be holes in other places as well where there's no branches. Or I'll fill them with a very, very fine brush. I'm going to get a finer brush now. Start creating a bit of branching going on. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. So take a look at my Instagram. I'm trying to build that up now as well. So yeah, if you can follow me on Instagram, just Ollie the Artful or at Ollie the Artful. I'm posting a few things there now, the finished paintings and stuff. I know this doesn't look very good on the stream, but we'll get there. I think the colours, the streams or the camera's struggling to pick up the correct brown colour. So I'm just putting random branches where the holes are going to be. And then soon after this I'll start moving on to the green. I have a suspicion of how I'm going to paint the green. It's going to be more of a stabbing than a brush. I'm going to see what that looks like first. I'm going to use a lot of paint though, and then I'm going to build up the layers and see what happens. As I say, I've never really painted a tree, so we'll see what happens. If it's terrible, it's terrible. I'll just paint over it. So I'm exploring this with you guys as well. Cheers, Jono. How was your day? Forgive me if I don't answer immediately. I tend to be looking at the painting rather than the screen. So, right, that's enough for that right now. As I say, I'm experimenting. I know I'm repeating myself over and over again. I haven't done a tree before. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to see what happens. Essentially, I'm going to whack down a load of this Hooker's green paint. So I'm going to put down quite a lot. And then I'm going to build up the layers as we go. I'm going to use quite a large brush. A round one like this. And I feel like I'm going to kind of stab at the paint like this. See what's going to happen. And if you know any better ways of painting trees, please do let me know, because as I say, never done it. So I'm going to build in the texture as I do this. I'm not going to go for full coverage. I don't know if it's my computer, my eyes. I'm struggling to see what the colour of the picture is on the stream. I don't know if the green is coming through with the browns and the darks colours. And this is the technique I plan to use for the whole tree as I build up the colour as well. So the whole base colour is going to be this green colour. I might need to go over the half pipe again, or just to make sure it's fully covered. So there's a sharp line down here. I feel like that effect is doing quite well, to be honest. Obviously I'll come up with some darker tones and then some lighter tones afterwards. Just had a thought, I probably could have used masking tape to avoid me painting over the edges, but it's too late now. Is it too late? Next question is, do I actually have any in here? No, I don't have any masking tape in here, so I'm going to have to just redo the edges. So it'll be interesting to see how far or how realistic this tree actually is going to look. Because again, I just don't know. Yeah. So you've probably noticed on my channel, I've written the word mindfulness quite a lot. And actually, I think it's in the title of this stream. And I think this is why I started painting. It was all about trying to escape from that world that we live in, which can be really good. The world can be amazing, but it can also be pretty horrible. But it takes you away into a different reality that perhaps you struggle to find in your real lives, or my real life anyway. So that's why I started painting, to be honest. It was all about taking me away from what was difficult. And to be honest, I started painting probably at some of the most difficult, emotional time of my life. Some people were being really horrible to me at the time. And then my grandmother died, which sort of kicked me into gear to do painting. And I found it took me away from the realities of life and really did help me sort of progress a little bit, get my mental health together. And yeah, I guess that's how it all started. And what it has taught me is if you have a dream, or if you don't even know if you can do something, just try it. There's absolutely no harm in trying it. Get out and about. Don't get stuck indoors. Like, I'm painting this tree and I'm thinking of going to a forest now. I'm thinking, oh, I haven't walked in a forest for a very long time. One of the most beautiful and peaceful places, a forest. Especially at sort of dusk or night time. I think this is coming together quite well, to be honest, this sort of stabbing effect. Obviously I'm going to do a much lighter level once I've completed all this. Great thing with acrylics though, because it dries quickly, I can pretty much go straight onto the next sort of layer. Tell you what, it's a bit exhausting on the hands, stabbing at the canvas. I need to remember which order these are in. There you go. Number 5 is what I was looking for there. There's no point you seeing the palette camera if it's in my hand. I really like this effect. I've never, as I say, I've never done a tree before, but this is actually looking alright, to be honest. So I was talking about taking me away from reality. It's something I think we all need at times. The world is very intense. And meditation is absolutely key, and mindfulness and all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely key to help us sort of keep going, I guess. Really is absolutely key. Sorry, the canvas is a bit wobbly up here if you're feeling a bit seasick. And as I was saying, meditation is absolutely amazing. And that's kind of what mindfulness is. It sort of meditates you away, takes you away from where you are at. And it's why I love travelling so much into different cultures, because I think Western culture has forgotten our roots in that respect, forgotten the roots of who we actually are, what we actually need as a race. We need that meditation, we need that spirituality. Otherwise, who are we? We're no better than a very high-functioning monkey. That's clearly a tree. That's pretty good. I've still got another 2 layers at least on top of this. I'm going to use a very light green, sorry, a slightly lighter green, possibly slightly artificially light green. And I'm probably going to use a bit of yellow ochre as well, just to tie it in with the t-shirt, possibly down here. Getting in the way doing the sides, so sorry about this. I'll bring up some of the shading that I did earlier. I think that was pretty good, to be honest. Better than I was expecting. So while that dries, I might just move on to the other side and create a tree the other side. This one's not going to be anywhere near as detail as big. It's just going to come like this, just to frame the subject, make sure it's there. So on the stream it looks alright, I think. Obviously I need the highlights and the tones there. I'm just going to start off in exactly the same manner as I did before and whack a bit of, not lamp black, whack a bit of Payne's Grey to create a couple of shadows. Now I think because of the lighting, this side of the tree is going to have to be a bit darker, whereas this whole side is going to be lit up. So I'm going to have to be a bit careful with that. just going to randomly put in some shadows, which we'll paint over. As I say, because it's going to be slightly darker, I'll probably put a few more shadows in than I would otherwise. And I'm just going to go in and do exactly the same thing as I did with the other tree. So I'm going to grab the slightly larger brush, grab my paint here, which is already dried out a little bit. I'm just watering it down. I'm just going to bring in the branches here. You probably can't see anything that I'm doing here. So that's cool. And I'm going to grab the slightly smaller brush, which was a number 1, and create the lighter branches. So I'm going this completely freehand. I'm not really using the reference image at all right now to make this. Well, partly because this tree doesn't exist on the reference image. I'm going to use exact same technique. It's going to be exactly the same kind of tree. I think it's just going to look really quite nice. It's cool. And I'll finalise this with just the really small, oops, that's a lot of paint on that brush. The really small branches. So I think that's really good. I think that's working well now. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to basically stab all the green paint over again. Go a little bit further with this one. Might have to wait for this to dry a little bit actually. On the stream it does look very dark, but it's going to get lighter when I add the next layer. So stick around to see it really come to light. And I'll add some really, really bright highlights, highlighting some of the leaves and some of the sections, using just the white pen. And when I do the lighter stuff, I'll try and keep the patterns really nice so there's actually more texture. So, stand back as always, check what the work looks like. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. It looks really nice. Just need to do the highlights on the trees now. Make sure they're a lot lighter in places. I'm going to have to redo the highlights on here. And on this one as well. So I think it looks pretty good. Washing the brush. Yeah, I think that frames the skater really nicely. It's really captured it really well. Maybe it is a bit cliched, the way it's just perfectly around his arm. But I quite like that. It really frames the action in the image. So you've got the rustling of the trees behind it, you've got the movement of the skater, and he's looking down to his shadow, or probably under his shadow. And it's kind of like predicting the future, because that's where he's going to end up shortly. Hopefully still on the skateboard though. So I'm going to do the next layer of trees. It's just going to be a lighter green, so I'm going to try emerald green. Never opened this. See how much different that is and how, if this actually pops at all. And then following this, I need a much lighter yellowy green. I don't know which one I'm going to use, maybe I'll just mix it. Oh, I'm not sure I like this colour. Maybe I do. I'll use it sparingly. I'll do a little section, see what it looks like, and then if I don't like it, then I'll just have to paint over it with something else. I don't really want to mix it unless I really have to. I think it's okay, but if I use it sparingly. But most of it will have to be painted over. It mixes in with the background, it's fine, I think. I just think it's a bit bright on its own, or if the brush is too much on it. So there's obviously going to be certain areas which are a lot brighter, and there's certain areas that are a lot darker. Certainly the tips will be a lot lighter, so I'll start with the tips. And try and bring, like you would with a cloud basically, or bring layers of the tree down. So it's not all going to be consistently the same colour. I think it looks alright. And I'm going to get a very yellowy green later on. I think I'll just mix it with this emerald green. Mix a bit of yellow with this emerald green, and then I'm going to really sort of layer it up and do the highlights there. Got to wipe the brush there, that's gone a bit too much there. Let me just use the kitchen towel tissue paper just to get that stuff off. Maybe this doesn't look terrible. I thought this colour was not very good, but actually, looking at it now, it seems to blend in quite nicely. I thought it was a bit of a fake green. I mean, it is emerald green, so it's not a particularly natural colour. But against the really dark green of the existing leaves that I've done, I think it looks really quite nice. And I am using it a lot more sparingly than I perhaps was using I was using the underneath. So this is just more of a highlight. And I'm just stabbing a lot harder in places where I think there should be a much greater highlight, which is just the edges mainly. And as I come in, I'm just sort of being a bit more gentle with my stabs, so it's not adding so much paint on. When I want that to be a sort of area of highlight, I stab it a bit more. I'm just going with the flow here, I'm not really paying attention to the reference image at all here. So I'll put another layer up here so you see the depth of the tree coming around, just like you can here. It's actually drying a lot darker, this emerald green, so when I'm stabbing it on it's really bright, and then very quickly it gets a lot darker, which is quite a nice... The drying colour is what I kind of wanted, not the initial colour. So I have to be honest, landscapes is not something that inspires me to paint. I don't think I'll do many landscapes. This isn't obviously a landscape because the main subject is actually somebody, is actually a person. I'm going to try and avoid doing landscapes in the future. You never know, I might suddenly find that actually I really enjoy doing them. Actually, they're a bit generic. I mean, the only paintings, when I go to a gallery for instance, the only paintings I actually look at are the ones of people or the ones of animals. I see a landscape and think, this looks like a photograph. I'm going to stab really hard in some areas to get that paint off the brush and onto the canvas to add some really nice highlighting. I think that looks alright. Again, it needs another layer of much lighter green paint or yellowy green paint. As I said earlier, this side is going to be a little bit darker because the light is coming from this way. So I'll mainly just do the edges, I guess. Well, I'll do it all over, but I'll really focus on the edges, I guess. So considering this is the first tree I've ever painted, I'm quite impressed. Especially at this scale. Which is probably bigger at larger scale than it is at smaller scale. Still got a few more layers to go though. That looks alright. I think that tree looks better than this one though. Putting a couple of highlighted bits around the edges of this tree. Try to emphasize it more than that tree, just so you can see where the light is coming from. I struggle seeing sort of greens and reds, so I think that looks alright. On the stream it looks possibly not as good as it does in real life. So what I'm going to do while that dries, I'm going to tidy up this shadow. I think the shadow needs a bit of work. The edges anyway. Just going to put a bit of the grey down. I'm going to use this brush here. I'm just going to try and make sure the blending is a bit better than what I managed yesterday. Also, what I was going to do, I was going to do a bit of a blue highlight, a blue sort of haze around the shadow. Very, very slight. So I think that'll make these shadows stick out a little bit more. I feel like it's slightly like that in the reference image, although I think it might be my eyes just playing a trick on me. I'm going to help your eyes along by putting a sort of a blue glow around the shadow. I think that's blended it in a little bit better than it was before. It's still not great. Note to self: get it right the first time. Then if you're going to fill it in, don't put the paint too thick. I think that's alright. I think we're not that far off drying with the other one, so I'm going to turn the green I've got left, i.e. this bit here, I'm going to turn it into, let me sort my life out here, it's a bit of a mess. I'm going to turn it into a sort of yellowy colour, sort of lighter yellowy green. So to do that, I'm just going to use lemon yellow, I think will be good enough. And I'll mix those two together and we should get a sort of nice yellowy green colour. I need a bit more yellow. I'm trying to bear in mind that the emerald green seems to dry a lot darker than it goes on the paper, which is a bit annoying to be honest. I might need to add a bit of white, but I'll just try it out. Oh, maybe not. So again, this is going to be a very gentle layer. It's going to be a lot less than the previous layer. Just highlighting certain areas where it's capturing the light, I guess. I'm going to highlight the edges quite a lot. I think that's looking alright. Certainly on the canvas. And I'm going to stab it pretty hard where I want the highlights to really be, which is all along this edge here. And a few sort of areas inside. It's all about building up layer by layer. My life really. Build up your life layer by layer as well. What's going on around you? So I'm just going to step back and see what I think of that. Yeah, I guess it looks alright. Still need some more highlights, still need some very light bits as well. So I'm sort of at the mid-tones now. Maybe I've got 2 more different colours to go after this too. And then plus the white highlight pen, which I'll hit in certain places. I'm going to do a little bit less. I'll do the edges here so you can see the light shining through. And this one, rather than sort of reflecting in layers, I'm going to sort of stab different sections because it'll be more about the light shining through, and it will be about the sort of layers of trees and foliage. Yeah, I think that looks alright. A little more highlight over here. Especially up here, to think about it. Try not to go too much with this because there's probably a point at which it starts looking terrible. I'm really trying not to hit that point. It's like you never know when to finish a painting. If you overdo a painting, it starts looking worse. There's like a sweet spot. Random line of paint there. Let me just break that up. Still a random line. That's cool. So again, I think I'm going to put a bit of yellow ochre on this, in this paint now. So partly because it's a very natural colour for trees, but also because I've usually got a lot of yellow ochre in the t-shirt, I'm just going to bring it all through the whole painting. So I'm mixing that with the green. So this is just going to add a bit of colour onto the highlighted bits. I'm not going to go very hard on it, I'm just rough. Colour down. It's lighting. You see how it's lighting that, well, I'm not sure you can see on the screen. But you see how it's lighting up the leaves and the highlighted bits. So I'm only putting it on the highlighted bits, and I'm not completely covering the highlighted bits. I think it's reflecting the sun nicely, and possibly reflecting inferring the colour from the t-shirt as well. And I'll do it on the other side as well now. So just start on the edges, then gently go over the highlighted bits. Oh. Hope I can take that bit of paint off with the kitchen towel. Not really, but be able to get some sort of texture on there. Just a light bit, I guess. Again, I'm not entirely sure if this is being picked up on the stream very well. Subtle green colours. And step back, see what it looks like. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Actually going back to the old green now. Gentle. Some of the areas where I've gone a bit too keen, I think. Again, I guess it's just working up to the next layer now. Having a look at what the stream looks like. Trust me, this looks a lot better in real life than it does in the stream. I don't know if it's out of focus. No, I don't know. So I'm going to go even lighter, even more yellow. And I think the final layer after this will be basically a very, very, very basically white. In fact, I'm going to add a bit of white to this. Again, just work from the outside in. Again, be quite gentle with this colour. So you can see how it's highlighting that really nicely. That's looking a lot better on the stream with this one. This is just all about building up the layers, making sure that we are going all the way to the depth of the tree. Oh, too much up there, maybe I can rescue it, or do I need to take the paint off? Oh, I think it looks quite nice if you... It's just a very bright bit of the tree. But that's not. Get over the top there. I think that looks really good, those trees. This painting is quite moody. I think the real thing is a bit lighter, but I've kind of created it a little bit more moody. I think that's my style, to be honest. Because the background colour is quite moody. Yeah, I think that looks quite cool. I'm going to lift it towards me a bit just so I can check without the reflection. Yeah, I think that's really good. Really happy with that. And I need one final layer of basically a very bright yellow white. So I'm going to continue using the palette, the colour. I'm just going to whack a bit of yellow on it, white on it. So what I'm aiming for here is a very white. And I'm going to do it really gently. See the shimmer going on in all the leaves. This is really, really gentle. And I'll do one final layer of pretty much pure white after this. But really, really gentle. So if I can get that bit of colour off, so I went a bit too much there, and so recently I've discovered the joys of taking a train rather than driving everywhere. It gives you time to reflect and you can watch the world pass. So I'm travelling up to Leeds later on this week. And I'm thinking I'm going to get a train, and what I'm going to do on the train is I'm going to edit a full video of this for the YouTube. And I think that's something I wouldn't necessarily have ever done before I started reflecting on sort of going a bit slower in life. Not everything's about 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm hoping this dries a bit less bright, but let's see. It will dry lighter. Darker, sorry. I'm worried about how bright this paint is. It will dry darker, but I'm just going to dab it a few times with bits and paper, just to hopefully get some of that pigment. think it looks alright. I'm not totally sold on the really bright leaves, but I don't see that being necessarily a problem. It does look like there's movement in the painting though. It does look like there's a bit of a rustle in the breeze. That's quite cool. So I think this is pretty much the end of the painting now. Once I've tidied up these bits, where I've overspilt the on the tree sort of thing, I think that'll be the end of the painting, to be honest. My trusty paint pen out and just finish off the highlights again. So for my first attempt at a tree, I think that's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Any comments would be greatly appreciated to understand if I could have done the trees any better. It looks quite different on the stream, so I don't know why. I'll post a picture. Or when I do the video or the short, there'll be a comparison, and it'll have a full photo of this. So I think what I'm quickly going to do, actually, I'm just going to mute down the really light bits with a slightly darker green. This might be a total disaster. No, I think that's working quite nicely, actually. Yeah, I think that's what it needed. I think I made the final coat a little bit too bright there. I'm dumbing it down a little bit with the first green I did. Still got the highlights coming through. They're a lot less prominent if I do this. I think this is one of those things where I probably just need to leave it and see what it looks like in the morning once it dries, then maybe come back to it. I don't think it looks terrible. So I did say I was going to put a little blue shadow around the shadow, blue highlight around the shadow. I'll just do that quickly now. I'll use a fairly darkish blue, so I'll use a indigo light. And what I'm really trying to do is really, really rough, really, really light blue to infer the sky around the shadow, and then really smudge it in. Need a bit of a water on this one. Oh. So I'm just going to complete the shadow with this little blue haze around it. And I think that's me done for the painting. I've just seen another little bit I need to do. Just need to grab a bit of this. Just a bit in there. Oh. And then that texture around there. So I think that works. Same with the white here. Just to blend in the texture of where the grey I put in earlier. And then finally I'm just going to finish off that grey. Along the top edge, sorry, the far right edge, and I think that's pretty much me done. So as I say, let me know what you think. I'm not totally convinced about this tree. I might come back and do a little bit more work later on. But in terms of me streaming this painting, I think that's done. I'll release obviously a shorter sort of 10-15 minute video describing what I've done, and then go from there really. I'll start my new project probably on Saturday, which I think is going to be a cat if I get the image. So I should get my views up on YouTube, given the fact that everyone loves cat videos. I'll be painting one. So that's the end of my stream. Thank you for watching. Yeah, this is the finished article. So a new short will go out tomorrow, which will show the sort of the halfway stage, and then I'll probably release the final short, which will be a really quick one, just showing me really quickly doing the trees and then doing the reference photo and smudging over it, sort of revealing the real image over it. So that'll be that. As I say, I might have a look tomorrow. I might want to tidy up the trees, make them a little bit darker. In real life, they're not quite as bright as this, so they're a lot more yellowy as well. That looks bright white in there. But I'll have a look how it dries, and then I'll sort of come back to it. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.